There's a book titled Amusing Ourselves to Death. It was initially published in 1985. The book analyzes public discourse in America as the country has shifted from a literary society to one dominated by TV. The idea being that the dominant media format of our time deeply influences the way that public discourse happens. Politicians who are successful in a literary era spoke very differently from the ones who were successful in the TV era. Almost 40 years later, there's a strong case that we are now in the TikTok era of media. And what has this done to the way that we think and the way that we talk? Today's video is sponsored by Surfshark. Surfshark is a VPN, and of the various VPNs that I've tried, it's the one that I've had the best experience with. If you're not familiar with a VPN essentially allows your computer to connect to a server in some other country or some other place, and therefore overcome things like geographical restrictions on content or pricing. Having a VPN can be really useful when it comes to attaining content that's only available in certain countries. I'm from Canada initially, there's certain content only available in Canada. When I'm here in America, I have to use a VPN in order to be able to access that content. Surfshark is a particularly nice VPN because it's so easy to install and you can run it on unlimited devices with only one subscription. Surfshark is also really good with privacy, which if you're familiar with the VPN space is actually really important. Surfshark has a no logs policy. So they're not logging what it is that you're doing, which is a lot better for security, in my opinion. And for a limited time only, you can get 83% off a 2-year subscription and 3 months free at surfshark.deals/johnfish. This offer makes your subscription literally $2.21. If you go to surfshark.deals/johnfish and use code JOHNFISH at checkout. I recently started a social reading company, similar to Goodreads, but designed around myself, the things that I wanted in a platform like that and people like me. But as I started this company and I talked about it with prospective investors and different founders, there was one major doubt that a lot of people had. Isn't reading dead? Kids aren't reading anymore, right? They're on TikTok. We're not just in the TV age, we're beyond that. We're in the social media age. Why build around reading right now? It's dead. Well, this isn't exactly true. If you look at the last 20 years of book sales in America, you'll notice something. And it's that the last 2 years are the biggest years. And what's driving this increase in revenue? Counterintuitively, it's social media. Now, this isn't the only factor, but many people in the publishing world right now are pointing to TikTok. Books recommended by influencers, books that get hot on social media like Colleen Hoover books, have been propelled to #1 bestsellers. Books are getting a huge amount of attention on social media. But why is this? How can we understand this? We're supposed to be in a world where attention spans are dwindling, where media formats are getting more and more compressed. That's the popular narrative. So how can it be in a world like this that we're seeing an increase in book sales and high engagement around reading? I've spent a lot of time trying to understand this, and I'll share with you what I think. First, we have to understand what's happening in the era of social media. Social media companies exist in the attention economy. They've commoditized attention. For a social media company like Facebook, attention is equal to revenue. This is because their primary business model is advertising. The more time that you spend on their site, the more ads they can serve to you, the more revenue they can extract from you. Now, what comprises this attention and therefore revenue for the companies? Well, it's really just two things if you boil it down. It's their user count and then the average amount of time that they get out of a user. That's attention, that's revenue for these companies. So if you want to increase revenue, which all these companies do, there's really two ways. One of these numbers has to go up, preferably both. So user count, how do you make user count go up? Well, this was the early days of social media. The late 2000s, early 2010s, you saw platforms scale from millions of users to billions of users. But this is only half of the equation and it reaches a saturation point. At a certain point in a market, everyone has a Facebook account. And so you need to work on the second half of the equation, the time. And this is where, from my perspective, the most energy has gone in the last, call it half decade or so, maybe a little bit longer. To give you some examples of this, feeds like your Twitter timeline used to be chronological. But what all these social media companies realized is that by controlling the content that you see algorithmically, they can drive up the amount of time that you spend on their site. Therefore, they're able to show you more ads and they can make more money from you. This also led to huge investment in content recommendation engines. Understanding the content that keeps you on the site and keeps you coming back to the site became critically important for any site like this. And finally, we've seen a shift in media formats. YouTube, the platform that we're on, is a really great example of this, where YouTube has taken heavy investment away from long-form content into short-form content. You spend more time on the site, they can show you more ads. It's a win for them. Imagine that you are this sponge and that this juice is your attention. These companies are trying to squeeze every drop of it out of you. And it's working. For many people, from the moment they wake up to the moment they fall asleep, they're engaged with one of these companies with every resting moment. You have time to kill, you pull out your phone, you're looking at TikToks. But the thing about being squeezed is it doesn't feel good. It doesn't. It doesn't feel good to have all of your attention being sucked away from you. And this is where we get back to reading, because reading serves as a reactionary force to this. Reading does not squeeze you. Books are an uncompressed media format. Reading a book is not about getting quick dopamine hits one after another. It's not about just getting the main points and then moving on. Reading is a self-guided experience. Reading a book takes you on a journey. And where social media is fast and distracting, reading is slow and concentrated. So is it really such a surprise that after being squeezed so much and say, hey, maybe I don't want to be squeezed all day? I don't think it's that surprising at all. And it should be no surprise that this is communicated through the dominant communication mechanisms of our times, which happen to be social media. And so I think that we're headed towards a really interesting era of media. I'm not predicting that people are going to become Luddites and, delete all social media and only read books. But I do think that there is this reactionary force that is getting stronger. People feel squeezed and they look for alternatives. And I think the beautiful thing about reading is that once you understand books and how fun it can be to read and how rewarding it is to read, it's a self-reinforcing process. For myself and for many other people, and I would say most people, it's a lot more rewarding to spend 4 hours reading a novel than it is to spend 4 hours scrolling on TikTok. And for all the criticism of book talk and people talking about books on social media, turning it into more of a lifestyle and an aesthetic, fundamentally, this is good for the world. Bringing more people into reading, whether it's for lifestyle and aesthetic purposes, or whether it's because they're being militantly studious, both are good. What we're seeing right now in the world of reading is a bunch of young people who realize that they're being extracted, who turn to a trusted form of media and find great enjoyment in it, and they share that with their friends. And I think that's just awesome. Reading doesn't need to be this thing that's only done in schools, it's all hoity-toity. It's just a media format, but it's a media format that I think we need right now. It's one that can be immensely beneficial to people. It can change lives, and it can change the society and the way that we talk and the way that we treat each other. To me, I see reading as this beacon of hope that we're not headed towards a world like that in the movie Idiocracy, a world where we just get dumber and dumber and watch stupider and stupider content. I just think anyone who believes that doesn't have enough faith in humans. We're not just pawns that big social media companies extract attention from. We're people. And if reading a book makes us happier than consuming content on social media, then it shouldn't be surprising at all. And I'm very happy with the momentum that it started to pick up. Thanks so much for watching. My name is John Fish. I'll see you again soon.